It's time for the news.
The Speaker of the Council of the Nation, Salah Goujil, has reiterated Algeria's unswerving position in support for the rights of Sahrawi people as guaranteed by the charters of the UN and the African Union. And several scholars and officials have recalled the lessons drawn by the Sahrawi Revolution from the Algerian glorious November Revolution on the second day of the Summer University of the leaders of the Polisario Front. And the Israeli occupation has pursued its pounding of several parts of the Gaza Strip, killing over 80 Palestinians for the last 24 hours. Those were the major developments. Now the full news edition. Good afternoon. The Speaker of the Council of the Nation, Salah Goujil, has reaffirmed Algeria's unswerving position in support for the fight of the Sahrawi people and their rights guaranteed by the charters of the UN and the African Union on human and people's rights. Majid Mila has the details.
This came in a speech read on his behalf by Mohammed Rida Ossahla, Vice Speaker of the Council of the Nation in charge of external relations, who represented the Council's Speaker at the opening ceremony of the Summer University of Leaders of the Polisario Front and the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic in Boumardès. Mr. Goujil hailed the fight of the Sahrawi people against the Moroccan occupation and their heroic resistance in the face of tyranny, crimes and maneuvers of the Moroccan colonial policies, as he put it. He added that Algeria, in line with the instructions of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, prioritizes the voice of Africa during its mandate as a non-member permanent representative of the International Security Council. He added that Algeria developed a promising working plan to correct the historical injustice endured by the continent, first and foremost, the decolonization. After having mentioned in his speech the honorable positions of Algeria vis-à-vis the Sahrawi cause, Mr. Goujil recalled that Algeria will never abandon Western Sahara.
And on the second day of the 12th edition of the Summer University of the leaders of the Polisario Front and Sahrawi state officials held at the Faculty of Law and Political Science in Boudouao in the province of Boumardès, east of Algiers, several scholars and officials have recalled the lessons drawn by the Sahrawi Revolution from the Algerian glorious November Revolution. Mariam Bershio is on the spot, tells us more.
The different speakers hailed Algeria's constant support for just causes, notably the Palestinian and Sahrawi causes. They stressed the lesson learned by the Sahrawi Revolution from the Algerian Revolution that lasted from 1830 to 1962. Meanwhile, several professors also addressed the violations of human rights committed by the Moroccan occupation against the Sahrawis. From the province of Boumardès, Mariam Bershi for Radio Algeria International.
The civil society has welcomed the decision of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, to run for presidential elections to be held on September 7th with a view to achieving the aspirations of the Algerian people. It indicated that its support to the President of the Republic stems from its national responsibility and in consideration of economic progress, the development of vital sectors and the implementation of a number of large-scale projects aimed at strengthening sustainable development in several areas. In this respect, civil society actors will announce the creation of the Civil Society Initiative for Algeria, given that the date of 7 September represents a key stage in the history of Algeria, requiring the combined efforts to everyone to ensure that the interests of the country prevail. The Higher Youth Council is to hold from the 21st to the 24th of July here in Algiers the Youth Diplomacy Forum under the motto of Promising Diplomacy for a Pioneer Algeria. This forum, which will see the participation of young people aged 18 or between 18 and 35 inside the country and abroad, tends to establish dialogue and debate on strengthening the active participation of young people in diplomacy. The event will shed light on their role at the international scene and on proposals aimed at promoting this role. The member of the Council of the Nation, Noura Sadia Jaffer, has highlighted during the Universal Women's Leadership Forum in Strasbourg, France, Algeria's efforts in supporting peaceful solutions of crises and encouraging women and young people to get involved in peace operations. During the forum, the Algerian representative affirmed that Algeria places at the heart of her priorities as a non-permanent member of the Security Council the strengthening of peaceful settlement of crises, the promotion of the position of women and young people in peace operations, and the international fight against terrorism. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International and to the Palestinian thorny issue now. The Israeli occupation has pursued its pounding of several parts of the Gaza Strip, killing over 80 Palestinians for the last 24 hours. Scores of other people were wounded in the Israeli bombardments, which also hit the central part of the territory as well as the eastern and central part of Rafah in the southern area of the enclave. According to Palestinian sources, the death toll in overnight's attack carried out by the Israeli occupation against an UNRWA-run school in central Gaza has risen to 22. The attack on the school that shelters thousands of refugees was the fifth of the like to be carried out by the Israeli occupation within 8 days. This came as the Euro-Mediterranean Observatory for Human Rights called on the UN Security Council and the General Assembly to take action rapidly to force the Israeli authorities to stop their large-scale and methodological operations against centers sheltering displaced in the Gaza Strip. In a communique, it stressed that the international community had failed to stop the 10-month-long genocide perpetrated in Gaza, as evidenced by the continued Israeli attacks and bombardments of UN infrastructure. We're still with the Palestinian issue, and in a similar move, the Palestinian Fatah movement denounced the Israeli attempts to cause the Palestinian population to surrender and to call its existence into question. The movement spokesman reiterated that the Israeli occupation was seeking to eradicate the Palestinian cause while expressing regret at the international community's failure to end the Israeli occupation and promote the setting up of a Palestinian state. In a similar reaction, the new British Foreign Minister David Lammy urged for an immediate ceasefire while underlining during a visit to the region that death and destruction in Gaza were intolerable. Earlier, President Luiz Inácio Lula of Brazil called on the world leaders to denounce, as he put it, the endless massacre targeting the Palestinians and blamed the Israeli occupation for continuing to sabotage the peace process in the Middle East. To African news now. Rwandans today went to the polls to elect their future president for a 5-year term, as well as their representatives in parliament for the same period. Some 9.7 million eligible voters, including 3.7 million young people, are electing the next president and 53 deputies. 3 candidates are running for the presidential election, including the outgoing president Paul Kagame, who will face Frank Habineza, leader of the Green Democratic Party, and the independent Philippe Mpayimana. According to the Electoral Commission, the provisional results will be announced on the 20th of July, while the final results will be released 1 week later. And clashes between Congolese soldiers and Mobundo militiamen have left more than 40 people dead in the village of Kinisili, some 130 kilometers northeast of the capital, Kinshasa. In 2022, inter-community tensions between the Teke, who consider themselves owners of the village along the Congo River, and the Yaka, who came to settle after them, turned into clashes and massacres. UN experts stated in December 2023 that more than 1,000 fighters from the Mai-Ndombe and surrounding areas have surrendered and or have been recruited and trained and sent to North Kivu to fight the M23. A car bomb has exploded outside a cave in Somalia's capital, Mogadishu, killing at least 9 and injuring several others. A communique issued by a government service indicated that the Al-Qaeda-linked group Al-Shabaab had claimed responsibility for the deadly attack. You still listen to Radio Algeria International and to the United States now. U.S. President Joe Biden has called on Americans to stand together following an assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump, saying politics must never be a literal battlefield. Majid Mila has the details.
Acknowledging the sharp differences between Democrats and Republicans, Biden said he would continue to articulate his vision for the country ahead of November's presidential election, but that political disagreements must always be settled at the ballot box. Biden said candidates debate and disagree, but differences are resolved at the ballot box, not with bullets, insisting that the power to change America should always rest in the hands of the people, not in the hands of a would-be assassin. He added that violence cannot be normalized. The political rhetoric in the United States has gotten very heated. On the assassination attempt against Trump at a rally, Biden said the motive of the shooter, who was identified as Thomas Matthew Crooks, a 20-year-old Pennsylvania man, is still unknown, noting that the law enforcement professionals are investigating the incident. Crooks was fatally shot by a Secret Service agent after he opened fire from that the agency said was an elevated position outside of the Butler, Pennsylvania field where Trump was addressing his supporters ahead of November's presidential election. In addition to the shooter, one spectator was dead and 2 others were critically injured.
You still listen to Radio Algeria International, and back to the country now. Culture Minister Soraya Mouloudji has said that the state is boosting its efforts aimed at the preservation and development of archaeological sites throughout all the national territory through a number of projects. In a statement to the press on the sidelines of her working visit of inspection to Chlef province, the minister affirmed that the preservation of cultural heritage is among the priorities of the Algerian state. And speaking about archaeology, I invite you now to listen to this program devoted to Algeria's tourism.
حبي يشوف زين الطبيعة والمنظر المدينة داير.
Welcome to your weekly program, Destination Algeria. I'm Jamal Slimani. There are a number of great destinations in Algeria just waiting to be discovered. A curious mixture of cultures and influences. Algeria has something interesting to see in just about every city. The country is also the first largest on the African continent, so you can be sure that there are plenty of towns and cities to visit. Let's visit Algeria's fascinating destinations, you and I, together. There are a number of delightful little towns in Algeria that are well worth visiting. One of the lovely coastal towns you might want to know more about is that of Delis. The rich and fascinating history of Delis in Algeria can be traced back all the way to Roman times. In fact, it can still be seen in the form of a 2nd century Roman ruin that is found near the northern entrance of the old city. Many of the other Roman artifacts found in Delis were taken to other countries and displayed in museums many years ago. Even in Roman times, Delis quickly became a powerful and influential city. It is thought that this original city was destroyed by either an earthquake or an invasion. Either way, the city was then rebuilt by the Arabs who moved to the region for political reasons. During this time, it was called Tidlis. Many centuries later, it was taken over by the Turks and became a part of the Ottoman Empire. During this time, there were many different tribes and peoples living in Delis, and the city continued to prosper. According to Juan Battista Montalbano, an 18th century Italian philologist, Didlis was a very prosperous port that was home to a number of rich families. He attributed this wealth mainly to the area's wool and flax dyeing resources. The city went on to become a popular holiday city, with many entertainment and sporting facilities being built. After many years of sovereign rule, Algeria finally took control of its own cities and towns, and so Didlis finally became a truly Algerian city. Today, Didlis in Algeria is filled with interesting ruins, relics and artifacts. Its diverse history has given it great appeal, while its striking coastal setting and colorful sunsets just cannot be ignored. The Ottoman-era Kasbah is a popular attraction, while the two colonial-era lighthouses continue to stand tall, indicating to ships where they should sail in order to safely make berth at the small port. Farming and fishing continue to be prominent activities here, and there is a distinctly industrious but relaxed feeling in the city. If you feel you'd like to see this town, you'll discover it to be a rich treasure trove of lovely sights.
طريق غريب مسافر حب يشوف زين الطبيعة والمنظر مدينة داير.
Hello and welcome on Radio Algeria International. This is our second part of your program, Destination Algeria. Looking for something interesting to do while you're visiting Algeria? You might find that a trip to Wadi El Abyad will amaze and excite you. This great topographical attraction boggles the mind and gives you an immense appreciation for the wonders of nature. Wadi El Abyad in Algeria might easily be called the Gorges in English. These incredible natural wonders were beautifully carved out of the soft Ouras mountains by seasonal rivers over the course of millions of years. Each portion of the Gorges is unique and inspiring, and it is worth exploring all aspects of them to get the full impression of this great natural attraction. Visitors to Wadi El Abyad will usually approach via National 3 or National 31, depending on whether they are arriving from the north or south of the country. Many visitors will simply pass by without even realizing that such a great natural wonder lies close by. If you are planning to pass through the area between Betna and Biskra, make sure you take your time and try to avoid public transport, which will overshoot the area, resulting in you missing out on this great attraction in Algeria. Most visitors start their exploration of Wadi El Abyad in the village of Roufi, which is the easiest place from which to reach the gorge of Tiranimim. Roufi is located about 90 kilometers from Betna and has a reputation for busy vendors enthusiastically trading goat hair carpets. However, far from impressive is the Roufi balcony, from where you can gain your first glimpse at the impressive Wadi El Abyad gorges you will be exploring from high above. After venturing through the village and setting out for the gorges, you will find the walk on foot very pleasant, as a palm-sided river bed accompanies you on your trek. steep hillsides and the little river keep you cool even in summer. Little villages do the route and can be explored as you make your way along. If you travel in a southerly direction, you should reach the Benyan Oasis by lunchtime and the beautiful Mshumish Oasis by the end of the day. You can choose how long you want to spend walking Wadi al-Abyad in Algeria, but if you walk the whole way, it will take you 3 to 4 days. Visitors should keep in mind that the area is fairly rural and there isn't much in the way of accommodation, although you should find nice enough facilities at some of the bigger pit stops along the way. For that reason, you should take your own camping equipment, food and bedding, although you shouldn't have to carry too much, as supplies can usually be purchased along the way. زينة 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 أرض بلادي زينة 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 أرض أجدادي أحباب الطفل جزرنا زرنا أرض بلادي أحباب الطفل جزرنا زرنا أرض أجدادي.
Scientists and inventors, including Arabs, Persians and Turks, were probably hundreds of years ahead of their counterparts in the European Middle Ages. They drew influence from Aristotelian philosophy and Neo-Platonists, as well as Euclid, Archimedes, Ptolemy and others. The Muslim made innumerable discoveries and wrote countless books about medicine, surgery, physics, chemistry, philosophy, astrology, geometry and various other fields. Today's article discusses the most famous Muslim scientists and inventors and their wonderful inventions. Nasr Muhammad al-Farabi was one of the earliest Islamic intellectuals who was instrumental in transmitting the doctrines of Plato and Aristotle to the Muslim world. He had a considerable influence on the later Islamic philosophers such as Avicenna. He was an outstanding linguist who translated the Greek works of Aristotle and Plato and made considerable additions to them of his own. Al-Farabi completed his early education at Farab and Bukhara. Later on, he went to Baghdad for higher studies, where he studied and worked for a long time. During this period, he acquired mastery of several languages, as well as various branches of knowledge and technology. Farabi contributed considerably to science, philosophy, logic, sociology, medicine, mathematics and music. His major contributions were in philosophy, logic and sociology, and for which he stands out as an encyclopedist. As a philosopher, Farabi was the first to separate philosophy from theology. It is difficult to find a philosopher, both in Muslim and Christian world from Middle Ages onwards, who has not been influenced by his views. He believed in a supreme being who had created the world through the exercise of balanced intelligence. He also asserted this same rational faculty to be the soul of part of human being that is immortal, and thus he said as the paramount human goal the development of that rational faculty. He gave considerably more attention to political theory compared to any Islamic philosopher. Later in his work, Farabi laid down in Platonic fashion the qualities necessary for the ruler. He stated that a ruler should be inclined to rule by a good quality of a native character and exhibit the right attitude for such rule. At the heart of Al-Farabi's political philosophy is the concept of happiness in which people cooperate to gain contentment. He followed the Greek example, and the highest rank of happiness was allocated to his ideal sovereign whose soul was united, as it were, with the active intellect. Farabi served as a tremendous source of aspiration for intellectuals of the Middle Ages and made enormous contribution to the knowledge of his day, paving the way for the later philosophers and thinkers of the Muslim world. Farabian epistemology has both a Neoplatonic and an Aristotelian dimension. The best of Al-Farabi's classification of knowledge is his Al-Kitab Ihsa al-Ulum. Farabi also participated in writing books on early Muslim sociology, a notable book on music titled Kitab al-Musiqa, the Book of Music. This book is, in reality, a study of the theory of Persian music of his day, although in the West it has been introduced as a book on Arab music. He invented several musical instruments, besides contributing to the knowledge of musical notes. Farabi traveled to many distant lands throughout his life and gained many experiences. As a result, he made many contributions for which he is still remembered and acknowledged. Despite facing many hardships, he worked with full dedication and made his name among the popular scientists of history. He died a bachelor in Damascus in 3039 AH/9050 AD at the age of 80 years.
استمعوا إلينا لنقل المعلومات من مصادرها الرسمية وتفسير حي للأحداث في حصص تحليلية مميزة. إذاعة الجزائر الدولية، صوتنا في العالم.